Good morning, welcome. Dr. Beverly Tatum is president of Spelman College. She's a psychologist who received a BA from Wesleyan, an MA in religious studies from Hartford Seminary, and a PhD from the University of Michigan. As you can see in your program, she's authored 3 books. She's received numerous awards. She is in much demand as a speaker, and I commend the Summit Planning Committee for their success in recruiting her to come today. Gail Harrison's well-known penchant for persuasive persistence, I think, has something to do with that. I'd never met Dr. Tatum until yesterday, but I've been teaching one of her books to our Phelps Scholars at Hope College, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Lots of other books have come and they've gone, but this is one that we have stuck with over the years. And that's because Dr. Tatum is a scholar, but she's a scholar who knows how to put her research findings in a real-world context. She addresses questions that real people ask, not just the kinds of questions her fellow scholars ask. And she frames her answers in a way that promotes genuine understanding. She adds a healthy and helpful dose of personal experience, both hers and her students. She speaks important and sometimes difficult truths in a respectful and straightforward fashion, drawing people into real conversations about real issues. I'm confident she will do all of that for us this morning, providing us with a terrific start to this summit. Thank you, President Tatum, for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Chuck, for that introduction, and I want to thank the LIDA organization for inviting me and for President Boltman for hosting us here at Hope College. It is a delight to be here in Western Michigan, and I am looking forward to our time together. I have written several books, and 2 of them have the same word in the title, and that word is conversation. And I am hopeful that we will have a conversation here, even in this space. I have some remarks to deliver, but I hope that there will be time for questions so that we might, in fact, begin a conversation that will continue throughout the day, and I look forward to that opportunity. I titled my talk this morning, Then, Now, Tomorrow, Race Relations in the Age of Obama. And you'll soon see why I gave it that title, but of course, the historic events of the 2008 presidential election do provide the backdrop to my talk. I'm sure it seems longer than this to President Obama, but it has only been 16 months since his inauguration. And I will tell you that I was among the 2 million people gathered in front of the Capitol building to witness the swearing in of the first African American to serve as President of the United States. It was truly incredible to be there, representing with so many other people, fellow Americans from every walk of life, representing the full tapestry of American life, all of us excited to celebrate this remarkable event. Now that it is official, and we have entered what I'm calling the age of Obama, what does it mean for us as a nation? Not in terms of healthcare or economy or any current policy debates. I mean specifically, what does it mean for us in terms of race relations in America? The racial dynamics of our schools, our workplaces, the racial identity of our children and colleagues, the way we think about diversity in our classrooms or workplaces. What does it mean for the way we live our lives? These are big questions, and I can't answer them all here today, but I can share with you some reflections this morning and some suggestions about how we ought to proceed in our various roles as community leaders. And I know I am speaking to an audience full of community leaders. One of the reasons I like to say yes to these invitations such as this one, is because I know I will be talking to people with a wide sphere of influence, people who can make a difference in their own communities. And that is a fundamental assumption I begin with, that in fact, you all, by your choice to be here and to be involved with the Lakeshore Equity Diversity Alliance, is an Ethnic Diversity Alliance, are indeed community leaders. So I want to begin by reading to you a short essay I wrote shortly after the election of President Obama. I was asked to write this essay by the editors of a publication called Inside Higher Ed, which is a daily online publication targeted to college and university administrators. And the editor said, you know, we are hearing about a lot of racial incidents on college campuses, and we think it's sort of a contradiction. Why would there be, on the one hand, college students 2-to-1 voted for President Obama, and yet we are seeing these really ugly incidents on college campuses right at the time that he's being elected? How do you understand that? And then I was asked to write about that. So I did, and I titled my essay Birthing Pains and the Emergence of a New Social Narrative. I spent election night with hundreds of students gathered at Spelman College, along with faculty, staff, administrators, alumni, and city leaders to await the results of our historic presidential election. It was a remarkable evening in which we collectively reflected on the achievements of the past, the success of the present, and hopes for the future. Civil rights icon Reverend Joseph Lowery powerfully described the 2008 election process to the students as a, quote, transformational moment in which the United States is being reborn, a moment in which the politics of fear and division was giving way to the politics of hope and inclusion. When the announcement of Senator Barack Obama's victory came, the cheers and tears in the swell of the largely African-American crowd at Spelman were mirrored in the faces captured by news broadcasters at the multiracial, multi-ethnic, and multi-generational gatherings in places like Grant Park in Chicago, Times Square in New York, and at the gates of the White House in Washington. Surely it was a night to remember. Regardless of political affiliation, we can all take pride in the high level of student engagement in that election and relish the social significance to this and every generation of the success of President Obama, the first African-American man to overcome this most symbolic of racial barriers, just 40 years after Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. articulated his dream that one day his children, Barack Obama's generation, would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. According to a recent Gallup poll reported in the weekend edition of USA Today, keep in mind this was in November, so the Gallup poll was November 7th, 2008, most Americans at that time, 67%, indeed expressed pride in this collective accomplishment. Even those who did not vote for President Obama indicated their excitement about the advance in race relations that his victory represents, recognizing that he was able to garner support from every region in the country. But from the beginning of his campaign, it was the millennial generation that provided a surge of support, voting 2-to-1 in his favor in the election and turning out in high numbers for him early in the primaries before he achieved front-runner status. Despite the widespread pro-Obama activism among very diverse groups of college students, several ugly campus incidents just before and after the election stand in stark contrast to the rising spirit of racial unification. The hanging of an effigy of Barack Obama at the University of Kentucky, the appearance of a noose on a tree at Baylor University, the dumping of a dead bear plastered with Obama posters at Western Carolina University, and the post-election Facebook posting by a University of Texas student of a call for, quote, all the hunters to gather up, we have a N in the White House, are just four which all harken back to a time of overt racial violence and hatred. How can such incidents be understood at this transformative moment? Are they simply, as some have suggested, random adolescent pranks without racial or political motivation? Certainly immature thoughtlessness shaped by a lifetime of exposure to stereotypical images and cultural messages that reinforce notions of white superiority and black inferiority is part of the explanation. But history suggests that there is more to it than that. In every period of great social change, there has been a backlash, often violent, in response. A shifting paradigm generates anxiety, even psychological threat, for those who feel the basic assumptions of society changing in ways they can no longer predict.